Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're taking a close look at Nigeria's political scene. Things are really heating up as we look towards the 2027 elections, and there's this major development that's got people talking. The National Opposition Coalition Group, the NOCG, they've formally adopted the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, as their unified party.
Yeah, that's a pretty big move. It signals a serious challenge to the incumbent, no doubt.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is really to dig into one of the most prominent opposition leaders in this new ADC setup, Rotimi Amaechi. We're basing this on a really interesting article from Restore Nigeria News titled Agenda 2027. Enter Rotimi Amaechi, the torchbearer of the ADC challenge. Okay. We want to pull out the key insights for you, the Nigerian public, especially if you're looking for change and want to know more about the main players in the ADC.
What's fascinating here, right from the start, is how that article frames Amaechi. Calling him a torchbearer, that's not just a throwaway word, is it?
No, not at all.
It really suggests a central, almost guiding role. Like, he's the one expected to lead the charge for this new coalition. It speaks volumes about the trust other opposition figures must have in him and, the kind of impact they expect him to make heading into 2027. So for anyone following Nigerian politics, especially if they're hoping for real change, understanding someone like Amaechi seems pretty crucial right now.
That sets things up perfectly. So let's dive into Amaechi himself, his personal side, how he engages, and his early political steps based on what the article tells us. Born in 1965, so he's been in the political game for a while now, a long career. We're talking Federal Minister of Transportation, that was 2015 to 2022 under Buhari.
Right.
Before that, Governor of Rivers State, a pretty significant oil-rich state from 2007 to 2015. And even earlier, Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, 1999 to 2007.
Quite the resume.
It really is. And educationally, he got a BA in English and Literary Studies way back in '87, but then much later went back for a law degree, actually got called to the bar in November 2022.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know about the recent law degree.
Yeah, quite impressive. Personality-wise, the article describes him as down-to-earth, introverted, and tenacious. Someone who, it says, rarely shies away from voicing his opinions and standing his grounds.
Tenacious definitely seems to fit, based on his history.
Yeah, but it also adds this important note that his insularity and assertiveness are often mistaken for arrogance.
Ah, okay. That perception point is interesting. And if we, connect this to the bigger picture, these early traits, especially that tenacity and assertiveness, they really help explain his political resilience later on, don't they?
Makes sense.
I mean, his real arrival on the national stage was probably when he became chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, the NGF, back in 2011. That put him in charge of all 36 state governors, and the article suggests he quickly focused on good governance.
Right, the NGF chairmanship, that was a big platform.
Huge. And you really see that tenacity you mentioned in 2013. He had to strongly defend his NGF re-election against, attempts by President Goodluck Jonathan's PDP government to undermine it. Even though he apparently got the votes 19 to 16, he faced enormous pressure, but he stood firm.
Wow. Taking on the presidency directly like that.
Exactly. It wasn't just politics. It showed he was willing to stick to his guns, even against, the most powerful office in the land.
That really does highlight that resilience.
No.
Does the article mention earlier examples? Was this a pattern?
Oh, absolutely. Even earlier, back in 2007, his fighting spirit was clear then, too. Remember, former President Obasanjo, as the PDP leader then, tried to basically annul Amaechi's win in the Rivers State PDP governorship primaries. Unconstitutionally, the article implies.
Right, I recall that controversy.
Amaechi didn't back down. He fought it all the way to the Supreme Court and actually won, regaining his mandate.
So it's a consistent thread, fighting against the odds.
Definitely. The article paints this picture of a leader who stands up for what he thinks is right, often against very powerful opposition. And you see the strategic side, too, as Director General of the APC Presidential Campaign Council.
Ah, yes, the 2015 and 2019 elections.
Precisely. He led the APC to victory in 2015, which was huge, right? First time an opposition party beat the incumbent presidentially in Nigeria.
Landmark moment.
And he did it again in 2019. That success led directly to his appointment as Minister of Transportation. So putting it all together, these moments show a leader focused on the rule of law, good governance, and the article stresses someone with empathy for the poor, often fighting battles with their welfare in mind.
That's a compelling narrative, resilience, strategy, and a focus on governance. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. What about his political vision? his ideology, how he actually approaches governing. Beyond the battles, how does the article describe what he actually wants to achieve?
Well, it clearly frames him as a development-inclined political leader. His main focus seems to be socioeconomic growth. Looking back at his time as Rivers State Governor, the article highlights really significant investments in infrastructure, urban renewal, transportation too, like that Port Harcourt monorail project.
The monorail, right.
Yeah.
Ambitious project.
Very. But it wasn't just about visible projects. He also pioneered independent power plants, a FEM, Transamati, on the idea being to boost industry, improve power supply. Apparently, River State under him was the first to get functional independent power plants commissioned. That shows a real practical drive to, make things work better economically.
That focus on development, particularly things like power, which are so critical, it's quite striking. How did that commitment play out in his political loyalties? You mentioned the APC campaign wins, but he started in the PDP. What drove that shift?
Yeah, this raises an important question about how his political allegiances have evolved and where he stands now. It's quite fascinating because even though he was a founder of the APC, even ran in their 2022 presidential primary, came second to Tinubu, remember?
Right, he did very well in that primary.
He did, but the article makes this crucial point. Amaechi seems to believe the greater good of the country supersedes any sense of party loyalty.
So principles over party.
That's the implication. You see it back in 2014 when he led that group of 5 governors out of the PDP. He explicitly cited the Jonathan government's incompetent malgovernance and their undemocratic strong-arm stratagems as the reason for leaving to form the APC.
Okay, so it was framed as a move based on governance failures.
Exactly. It suggests his political moves are driven by what he sees as best for Nigeria, not just party allegiance.
So he's shown he's willing to challenge the status quo, even leave his own party if he feels it's failing the country. How's he expressing that now? The article uses some strong words about his current criticisms.
It does, and that pattern continues. He's been very public, accusing current leaders of weaponizing poverty and basically stealing money that belongs to the people. That's direct.
Very direct.
And now, with the Tinubu administration facing its own criticisms, the article mentions things like ethnocidal nepotism and incompetent malgovernance. Amaechi is again stepping up. He's positioned as this torchbearer for the NOCG and the ADC, ready to challenge the current government directly.
And his new role within the ADC.
He's the de facto leader for the South-South zone. That's significant. It shows the trust other opposition leaders are placing in him to mobilize support in a really key political region.
It definitely seems like his history and his outspokenness are making him a central figure now. I found it interesting how the article mentions he might even pursue some current policies if he were president, but critiques the motivation behind them now. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, that's a subtle but important point he makes. He distinguishes between the policies themselves and the intent behind them. He argues that current leaders prioritize personal gains over Nigerians' welfare, and he sees that as the root cause of the widespread poverty and insecurity.
So it's about the why, not just the what.
Exactly. And he connects this to how leaders are chosen. He strongly believes Nigerians too often pick leaders based on ethnic and religious affiliations instead of looking at capacity and competence. And his warning is stark. Leaders chosen that way ultimately don't care for them.
A pretty damning assessment.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's why he says he's joined the ADC to fight what he calls the underwhelming performance of the APC and save Nigeria from dangerous stagnation. His core message is consistent. Choose leaders based on capacity and competence, not, as the article puts it, empty, pretentious rhetorical verbiage and tribal and religious sentiments. It's a call for a real shift in values.
A very clear call for meritocracy and leadership. Okay, so given this background, this vision, what about his practical influence, his networks? How does the article see him leveraging these for 2027?
Well, naturally, after holding all those high-profile positions, Speaker of State Assembly's chair, governor, and GF chair, minister, the article says he's built up a wide network of associates and solid connections to Nigeria's topmost political leaders.
Makes sense. He'd know everyone.
Pretty much. It makes him an influential figure in the country's power circles with unfettered access. He can pick up the phone and reach almost anyone.
That's a powerful asset in politics.
Absolutely. And the article suggests this network makes him a perfect fit for this leading role in the ADC coalition. He's got the connections needed to build it into a genuinely formidable platform for 2027. Plus, his deep understanding of Nigeria's governance problems fuels that consistent call for competence and the capacity to deliver good governance based on constitutionality and the rule of law.
So the network and the experience combine. The article mentioned he's somewhat introverted, though. How does that square with needing to be out there engaging?
Yeah, it's an interesting contrast. Despite being described as introverted, the article notes his occasional media appearances show a frank and down-to-earth style. So when he does engage publicly, it seems quite direct.
Okay. Now, the article also touches on some, let's say, less conventional aspects of his profile for a Nigerian politician. What were those again? They sounded quite intriguing.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting, as you say. While he's had business roles in the past, directorships at West African Glass Industry, Palm Nigeria Limited,
Standard enough, perhaps?
maybe. But what really jumps out, and the article calls it unusual for a Nigerian political leader, is his oft-stated disdains for the unbridled accumulation of money.
Disdain for money. Seriously?
Apparently, he famously said once he wouldn't even know what to do with $1 million.
Wow. That's unexpected.
Very. In a political environment where corruption is a huge concern, the article kind of floats this as something that could make him stand out, could resonate with voters tired of graft, though, of course, people will debate if it's genuine or just rhetoric.
Sure, cynicism is always there. What else on the personal side?
Well, he's described as a devoted Catholic, married to his childhood sweetheart, Judith. They have 3 kids. And get this, in 2021, he released a debut music single with his wife.
A music single. Rotimi Amaechi. Yep. Quite the surprise. And his 60th birthday last year, May 2025, wasn't just a party. It included a book launch. The book title, Weaponization of Poverty as a Means of Underdevelopment, a case study of Nigeria.
Back to his core theme again.
Exactly. It shows his continued focus on these big national issues, even in more personal moments.
Those are definitely unique points, the view on money, the music, the book. So wrapping things up towards 2027, how does the article frame his strategic thinking and his level of confidence?
It stresses he's still very much in the game, relatively young, physically healthy, and mentally sharp and agile.
Ready for the challenge, then?
Seems so. His very public meetings with other top opposition figures all over the country, former governors, current ones, party bosses, even business leaders, suggest he's actively fine-tuning his strategies and re-oiling his political structures. He knows it'll be tough.
He's building alliances, laying groundwork.
Looks like it, and he seems confident. The article mentions he draws inspiration from his role in that historic 2015 election, coordinating the defeat of the PDP when they were the ruling party. Believes he can do it again, essentially.
That's the message. And there's no ambiguity about his own ambition. The article quotes him directly saying, quote, "No retreat, no surrender. I will contest the ADC presidential primary, and by God's grace, I hope to win so that I can face Tinubu in 2027.
Crystal clear. No beating around the bush there. So what does this all mean for you, our listener, watching Nigeria's political landscape evolve towards 2027? Especially if you're hoping for change. Rotimi Amaechi's profile, as laid out in this Restore Nigeria News article, is really marked by resilience, that tenacity we talked about, and a sharp strategic mind. He comes across as a leader consistently pushing for good governance, arguing strongly that capacity and competence should outweigh ethnicity or religion when choosing leaders. The article leaves little doubt that his actions, his influence within this new ADC framework, will be a major factor in shaping the outcome of the 2027 election.
Absolutely. And the article really ends by positioning Amaechi as someone with, quote, huge potentials in midwifing the birth of the Nigeria the ordinary people dream to live in. We've seen through this deep dive how he directly confronts what he calls the country's dangerous stagnation, pushing for pretty fundamental changes in leadership. So maybe a final thought for you to chew on based on all this. Amaechi is forcefully arguing against choosing leaders based on primitive tribalism and hypocritical religiosity. He wants the focus squarely on capacity and competence. The question is, how could that kind of genuine shift truly change Nigeria's political direction? Could it tackle those deep-seated issues of poverty and insecurity he talks about? Could it move the nation away from that dangerous stagnation? And perhaps more importantly, what role do you, the voters, play in actually demanding that shift in 2027? How do you ensure those qualities, capacity, competence are what truly count at the ballot box? Something to consider.